Hello, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thanks for clicking and welcome to my channel. I design clothes, textile patterns, and I overall just really like making things. I hope you enjoy your time here and let's get started. This video is a review of the Bootstrap Fashion DIY dress form pattern. I decided to give this a go because I'm a tall person with a long torso and I wanted a lower cost option to those custom body scan dress forms. I have also tried adjustable dress forms in the past, but I could never get them to be quite my shape even if they were my measurements. Bootstrap Fashion asks for a fair number of measurements with a couple optional ones, and also asks things like what kind of posture you have and the slope of your shoulders. I did include some of the optional measurements when I ordered mine, and I do recommend providing those so your dress form has the best chance of being close to your shape and proportions. The ordering process was easy. I got the regular letter paper file, and printing and putting together the pattern was easy as well. The form has a lot of pieces that kind of looked similar to me, so I decided to cut out the fabric pieces a few at a time and sew them together as I went along so I wouldn't get confused. I used undyed cotton twill for this, which I know is a little boring considering I could use any fabric I wanted, but I wanted something that was kind of plain and similar to my skin tone so I could visualize how the garment on the dress form would look on myself more easily. Overall, the sewing process was fine and went without any hiccups. The instructions were helpful and there weren't any exceedingly complicated steps. Of course, wherever there were curves was a little tricky, and I did make a few mistakes, since this was my first time doing something like this, but that's on me, not the pattern. And it turned out really well despite all that, so I'm not complaining. The pattern includes places to put notches so you can make sure everything is lining up correctly, which was very helpful. There are a couple things that I did differently than the instructions said, but that was mainly personal preference. Like I chose not to put cardboard to reinforce the armhole area just because I didn't really want to, and it turned out fine in the end, just not as flat as it would have been if I had included the cardboard. I also didn't use a sponge for the neck part, I just used the stuffing that I used for the rest of the dress form, which also turned out just fine, it's just a bit more rounded than it would have been. It still functions the same, so that doesn't bother me. I also didn't want to install zippers at the bottom of the form, so I opted for sewing rows of eyelets and having a lace-up closure instead. With the dress form stand that I had, the tube size that the pattern called for was too big, so I just sewed some extra lines to make the center support sleeve narrower to fit the wooden dowel that I ended up using, and it worked very well. Stuffing the form was probably the most time-consuming part. Although the pattern is the shape that it is, you do have to make sure to mold it and put the stuffing in the right places so it looks right. And I did end up overstuffing mine initially, so I had to take some stuffing out to make it accurate to my measurements. If you are planning on making this pattern, be careful about overstuffing and make sure to measure the form as you go along. And for reference, I bought a 5-pound bag of cotton stuffing, and I did not use up the entire bag. I cut the bottom support out of a cardboard shoebox and laced up the bottom. I am quite happy with how this turned out. It definitely looks a lot more like me than any of my previous forms that I've had, and it's a lot more solid than I was expecting it to be. It's definitely not as rigid as a typical dress form would be, it's basically a pillow after all, but I think it's sturdy enough to be used as intended. And it's really easy to use pins on this, which is a huge plus. And because the dress form can compress, it makes it a lot easier to put on garments than a traditional dress form. I think this will be a great tool for me to have with making patterns and fitting clothes moving forward. I've already started drafting some designs I've been wanting to make for a while, and I'm very happy with how easy it is to work with. In fact, it helped me make this camisole dress, and the pattern for this will be available in my Etsy shop soon. If you want to try making your own dress form, I have a link to Bootstrap Fashions in the description. This is not a sponsored video, all opinions are my own, but I do get a commission if you use the link below to make a purchase. So if you are planning on buying from Bootstrap Fashions anyway, please consider using my link to help support my business and my channel. They also have a DIY men's dress form, a dress form cover so you can make an existing dress form that's smaller than you fit your measurements, an arm form, and a pant form. I think I'm going to make the arm form and the pant form next. Those seem like they'd be really helpful to have around. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you've made a bootstrap dress form before, let me know how you like yours in the comments. If you would like to see more content from me and be notified when I have a new pattern available, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching!